Good morning. We're going to convene the April 26th Labor and Industrial Relations Committee hearing. So I want to thank the members who are here. I want to thank Senator Lara, who's first on the docket, and we're lacking a quorum, so we can start as a subcommittee if it's okay with. Oh, we have a quorum. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bradford?
Here.
Bradford here. Stone? Here. Stone here. Atkins? Here. Atkins here. Jackson, Mitchell. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum established, and first up is Senator Lara with SB 258. When you're ready, Senator, you can present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. SB 258 is fundamentally a consumer's right to know bill. Cleaning products are used in nearly every household and workplace, and while they serve an important purpose, they contain thousands of chemicals, many of which are toxic and have been associated with a range of acute and chronic health impacts like asthma, birth defects, and cancer. This is especially true for janitorial and domestic workers who are exposed to these chemicals for several hours a day and have higher rates of asthma and other issues as a result. These industries are largely comprised of women and low-income people of color. Just as we trust Californians to check the labels on their food, drugs, and other personal care products, we believe it's time that ingredient disclosure in cleaning products are appropriate so that families can make purchasing decisions that suit their needs. Individuals with health conditions and known allergies or sensitivities can avoid unintentional and potentially deadly exposure. And companies that are already partaking in voluntary disclosure have a clear and consistent set of rules in the marketplace. I believe now is the opportune time for this for a few reasons. Companies are moving in the right direction already. Industry giants like Unilever are committing to detailed disclosure, including in their fragrances and their products, I should say. Big retailers like Target and Walmart are demanding significant transparency in their suppliers, and consumer demand for ingredient labeling on cleaning products is skyrocketing. A recent survey found that 78% of Californians support this form of disclosure, and this was across party lines, geographic regions, and diverse demographic groups, I should say. It is important to note that SB 258 has explicit protections for confidential business information. We are not requiring companies to disclose ingredient amounts or percentages or how they formulate their products. I recognize that the opposition has concerns with certain aspects of the bill, such as what and how much to disclose on the label, the protection of trade secrets, definitions, and the requirements around pictograms. The analysis also raises a question regarding the implementation of the secondary container labeling requirement. Given the scope of and the complexities in this bill, the opposition and I have launched a work group process and are methodically, sorry, I'm an English language learner and remind myself every day. There you have it. Working through the various provisions in the bill, including in the labor code section. I understand that the coalition also understands that we need to be flexible and willing to compromise with industry in order to move the ball forward. I'm asking the opposition to do the same. I am confident with everyone at the table we can craft a solution that is workable for industry, responsive to consumer demands for transparency, beneficial for workers, and most importantly, protective of our public health. With that, I will introduce my witness in support of the bill.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I want to thank Chairman Bradford and members of the committee for this opportunity to testify, and I absolutely want to thank Senator Lara for his leadership on this basic right-to-know issue. My name is Nancy Biermeyer. I'm with the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. We were formerly known as the Breast Cancer Fund, and we are a national organization focused on preventing breast cancer by reducing exposure to chemicals linked to the disease. As a sponsor of SB 258, along with the Environmental Working Group and Women's Voices for the Earth, I'm here to urge your support for this common sense right-to-know legislation. Toxic exposure is not only Toxic exposure is, apologies. We all have a right to know, and workers have a right to know what's in our cleaning products, but unfortunately companies are not required to fully disclose the ingredients of these products. As Senator Lara mentioned, scientific studies show that some of the chemicals that we do know are used in cleaning products are linked to acute health problems as well as chronic health concerns like cancer, including breast cancer, reproductive and developmental toxicity, and asthma. We know these chemicals get into people. Studies have detected these chemicals in urine, breast milk, and blood, including the umbilical cord blood of newborns. Toxic exposure is not only a public health issue, it's also an environmental justice issue. Our own California Department of Public Health found that exposure to cleaning products can trigger or cause asthma in workers. And according to scientists from the New York State Department of Health, children born to women who held cleaning jobs while pregnant have an elevated risk of birth defects. Low-income communities of color disproportionately bear the burden of exposure to environmental and toxic exposures. People of color, particularly women, are disproportionately impacted by workplace exposures to cleaning products. About half of the nation's janitors, maids, and housekeepers are Latino or African American. Women account for 9 out of 10 maids and housekeepers, and of those, 2/3 are Latino or African American. We all have the right to know, and workers in particular have a right to know, what is in the products we work with and around all day and purchase to bring into our homes. It's time to level the playing field for all manufacturers and ensure all consumers and workers have the information they need to keep their homes and workplaces clean and their families safe. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Evelyn Alfaro, soy orgullosamente trabajadora del hogar. Hace por 4 años trabajé limpiando casas de otras familias, utilizando productos de limpieza tóxicos y no entendía las consecuencias que estos estaban provocando a mi salud.
Hello, good morning. My name is Evelyn Alfaro, and I am proud to be a domestic worker. For 4 years, I worked in the homes of other families using toxic cleaning products, and I did not understand the consequences that these products had on my health.
Cada vez que yo utilizaba estos productos, experimentaba una sensación de intoxicación, ardor en los ojos, en la garganta también sentía el sabor del cloro, el olor tan fuerte y que no podía respirar. Yo usaba estos productos día a día y era expuesta a estos químicos por 8 a 10 horas diarias. Lo más difícil y preocupante era que esta sensación la mantenía después saliendo del trabajo. Cuando llegaba a mi casa, me dolía la cabeza y estaba mareada.
Each time I used these cleaning products, I experienced a feeling of intoxication, burning eyes, the taste of chlorine in my throat, and the smell so strong I could not breathe. I used these products every single day and was exposed to these chemicals for 8 to 10 hours a day. The most difficult and worrying part was the feeling that feeling continued even after work. When I got home to my house, my head hurt and I felt dizzy.
Estos productos que usaba no traen la información de los ingredientes ni los impactos que hacen a la salud. Ahora, con la educación comunitaria y entrenamientos que he recibido por ser miembro y líder de la colectiva de mujeres de San Francisco, entiendo cómo entran estos productos y cómo nos perjudican.
These cleaning products I used did not have any ingredient information, nor any information on the impacts on my health. Now, with the community education and training that I've received as a member and leader of San Francisco's Women's Collective, I understand how these toxic products get into our bodies and how they harm us.
En todo el estado hay millones de mujeres que no están conectadas a espacios como este y no tienen el acceso a educación sobre estos asuntos. Además, nosotras como trabajadoras del hogar estamos aún más vulnerables porque nuestro trabajo todavía no está reconocido. No tenemos protecciones ni regulaciones para nuestra salud en nuestros lugares de trabajo y estamos excluidas de las leyes de OSHA.
Throughout the state, there are millions of women who are not connected to spaces like this or have no access to education on these issues. In addition, we as domestic workers are even more vulnerable because our work is still not recognized. We do not have health protections or regulations at our workplaces. We are excluded from OSHA laws.
Esta propuesta de ley es sumamente importante. No quiero que otras trabajadoras del hogar pasen por lo que yo pasé. Yo como trabajadora del hogar y no como científica ni como médica, sino simplemente como una trabajadora del hogar, merezco el derecho de saber, de estar informada y de ver con pictogramas el peligro de estos productos.
This bill is extremely important. I do not want more domestic workers to go through what I've gone through. As a domestic worker, not as a scientist, not as a doctor, but simply as a worker, I deserve to know, to be informed, to see with pictograms the danger of these products.
Tengo el derecho de saber de todo lo que va a dañar a mi cuerpo, no solo en el momento que lo esté utilizando, sino de las consecuencias a futuro. La divulgación completa de ingredientes a través de un etiquetado de paquetes que asegure el acceso a través de pictogramas nos permitirá, como trabajador del hogar, tomar decisiones sobre nuestra salud, sobre la salud de nuestras familias, sobre la salud de las familias que cuidamos sus casas.
I have the right to know everything that is going to harm my body, and not only in the moment, but the consequences that they will have in the future. Full ingredient disclosure through labeling that ensures access through pictograms will enable us as domestic workers to make decisions about our health, the health of our families, the health of the families and homes we take care of.
Todas las trabajadoras del hogar no queremos más exclusión. Queremos que nos permitan y nos den el derecho de saber. Sí a SB 258. Gracias.
Domestic workers do not want further exclusion. We want to be allowed and given the right to know. Yes to SB 258. Thank you.
Additional witnesses in support, you can form a line right there and state your name and your organization. Thank you.
I'm Bill Alio with the Environmental Working Group. We're co-sponsors of the bill. I'm also here giving support for the following organizations who could not be here. Natural Resources Defense Council, Women's Voices for the Earth, Center for Environmental Health, the Change Coalition, California Healthy Nail and Salon Collaborative, and Physicians for Social Responsibility San Francisco. Thank you.
Emily Rash, the Executive Director of CalPERG, and I'm here in strong support on behalf of CalPERG and Environment California, too.
Eddie Moreno on behalf of Sierra Club California in strong support.
Vivian Erickson on behalf of the Honest Company in strong support.
Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation. This is a necessary complement to our state's hazard communication standard, and we urge your support.
Dolores Strand Flores with the California School Employees Associations. We have a lot of custodians that deal with these chemicals. We're in support.
Jason Schmelzer on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council in strong support of this common sense bill.
Christy Sepulveda Burchett with Educate Advocate. We serve special needs families in strong support.
Anchit So on behalf of the California Society of Dermatology and Dermatologic Surgery in support.
Renee Bayardo, SCIU California, also in support.
Mariko Yoshihara with the California Employment Lawyers Association in support.
Christina Hildebrand with the Voice for Choice Advocacy in support.
Hello, Megan Whalen with the California Domestic Workers Coalition in support.
Hola, muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Thelma Estrada y sí estoy en apoyo a la SB 258.
Reed Addis on behalf of Seventh Generation and Cleaning Product Manufacturer in strong support.
That's the extent of our witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. Luenda Lacey on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. We understand the concerns raised by this bill, but we do have significant concerns with regard to the secondary container labeling requirement. So I will focus on that for purposes of this committee. The bill extends manufacturers' obligations regarding ingredient disclosure to employers whose employees use these cleaning products as that is defined in the bill, and it is rather broad. So that puts the onus on the employer to, one, identify what counts as a cleaning product, and two, to identify ingredients, contaminants of concern, and pictograms to transfer those to secondary containers. There are significant practical implementation concerns with regard to how an employer would actually comply with these requirements. How does an employer create a label for a secondary container? Is an employer in violation when an employee unintentionally uses the wrong bottle when refilling a cleaning solution, or fails to affix the correct label to that secondary container? What liability and litigation would arise from that? If an employer purchases the same product in bulk on March 1st and July 1st, does the employer have to compare those two bottles of the same product to check if there was a change in the ingredient, so that when they fill those secondary container bottles, we use the right labeling? That raises the concern of, what if there was a change in the ingredient, no matter how de minimis, in one of the ingredients, and there remains a quarter bottle in a secondary container of the March 1st product? Now you would have to use a different container for the July 1st product because you have to affix a different label to it. So we're talking about significant waste here, which also flies in the face of California's waste reduction and recycling initiatives. In a similar vein, a lot of products can have over 100 ingredients in it, specifically when we're talking about fragrances. And so we might be requiring employers to start using different containers because the label may not fit on what they have presently. Again, we would be talking about the cost of that and the increase in our waste stream with regard to the containers that they can no longer use. Similarly, we are concerned about the implementation timeline with regard to this, and we are concerned about the overwarning issue because we do believe that we need to provide pertinent information to our workers, but we don't want to overload them with too much information where we're detracting from that important information, like, for example, with the OSHA requirements. And with that, I would say that is currently our opposition, but we do look forward to working with the author in the coalition regarding the amendments.
Good morning. Nicole Quinones here on behalf of the Consumer Specialty Products Association and the International Fragrance Association of North America. I just want to support the comments that were made by the Chamber, and I'll highlight a couple concerns from the manufacturers impacted by the bill. With respect to the secondary container labeling requirements, as Luinda laid out, if the employer is required to label those secondary containers, we can expect that they're going to ask the manufacturers for those labels. However, once the manufacturer provides the labels, we have no visibility into the workplace to make sure that the right label goes with the right product. So we're concerned from that standpoint. In addition to the practical implementation concerns, I also just want to highlight some of our main concerns around confidential business information and the on-label disclosure piece. And as the Senator mentioned, in working with the sponsors, we do look forward to hopefully finding a balance between providing the right amount of information on a product label and on the product website. As Luinda mentioned, labeling under SB 258 could require 50 to 100 ingredients being listed, and that's only the intentionally added. Currently, with the contaminants of concern, it could go above that. We also believe it's critical to protect the confidential business information. We believe it encourages innovation. Companies make a very significant investment to bring new products to market, and many times these are in the direction of greener and cleaner products. So we just want to make sure that that incentive exists. Also, a key component of the CBI is the fragrance. SB 258 would require full fragrance disclosure, and in many purchasing decisions, fragrance is one of the primary factors that determines the purchase. So a lot of companies invest, again, a lot of money in creating a unique fragrance to drive purchases. So again, it's something that we need to find the appropriate balance that provides consumers, workers, the type of information that they will find helpful, but doesn't provide so much information that is something that's only helpful to your competitors. We recognize that ingredient communication is a valuable tool for employees, consumers, and the industry. As the Senator mentioned, there are a number of companies in the consumer and institutional market who are already disclosing ingredients in their products. In the place, just to mention, these products are also required to be accompanied with safety data sheets, which list hazardous ingredients. And I mention that simply to highlight that we're not starting from scratch today, that there is a level of disclosure already happening. Just really quickly, a couple of other concerns that, again, we look forward to working with the author and sponsors on, the QR code element, the pictograms, and the implementation date, to name a few. Those also transfer to the secondary container labeling requirement. So thank you.
Additional witnesses in opposition. You can form a line. Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Jeffrey Leacox of Greenberg Traurig. On behalf of the American Cleaning Institute, I want to associate ACI with the comments of the prior opposition witnesses, and we are opposed unless amended. Look forward to working with the author. Thank you.
Tom Jacob on behalf of the Chemical Industry Council of California, opposed for the reasons articulated. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, John Hewitt on behalf of Grocery Manufacturers Association. We are also opposed. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Tim Shestak with the American Chemistry Council. Look forward to working with Senator Lara. Thank you.
Good morning, Shana Brown with California Manufacturers and Technology Association. Also opposed, but looking forward to working with the author.
At the extent of our witnesses in opposition, all right, bringing it back to the committee. Any questions by committee members? Stone, Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator Lara, I want to applaud you because I think it's very important that people have a good understanding of what they're cleaning with and how it can affect their bodies. If you don't use plastic gloves and you use your hands, you absorb it, it goes into the bloodstream, and it can certainly cause problems. I know that you've agreed to work with a working group, which I applaud you for. Have you had any meetings yet with the group, and has there been any compromises yet?
First meeting this week.
Oh, you do?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, good. So
tomorrow, 1 p.m.
So I applaud you, but
well, maybe it goes tomorrow.
Labeling. We know that we heard from the testimonies that in some of these products you have 50, 100, 125 ingredients, and so you may have a product that has a bottle this size, and with that number of ingredients, you may get them on a label, but at my age, I got to have these magnifiers. The font is going to be so small, you're not going to be able to read them, and so. And some of these chemicals are large. I know, being a pharmacist, I mean, I can tell, like sodium metabisulfate, right? It's just a stabilizing agent, or sodium lauryl sulfate is just a soap. But then again, there's things like sodium hypochlorite, which is bleach, which can be very caustic if you touch it. So there are some ingredients that are much more toxic than others. And so based on your bill, every ingredient, whether it's inert or not, has to be on the label, correct? Okay, so I would assume that you would be open to having they talked about this safety data sheet that might be a tear-off sheet on the bottle. That's one concern, is how you're going to get all the information where people can read it. I know that in New York City, I think in the staff report it says that they refer people to online, but they may be entertaining a bill like yours as well. And then the secondary containers. It's not easy, especially if you're a private citizen at home. You have somebody coming and cleaning your home. You buy the big bottle of Windex, you put it in a spray bottle. How are you going to get it into a smaller spray bottle? So I hope that these are some of the things that you're going to be working with, and especially I'm really concerned as an innovator about patent protection, not disclosing some ingredients that when combined together come up with a certain fragrance. Allergenicities are certainly a problem, but I can tell you from a compounding pharmacy standpoint, we innovated a lot of products that are the formulation of those are trade secrets. So I can transfer the name of the preparation and the ingredients, but I don't have to tell anybody how I formulated it, which is something I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that develop products would like to keep private. So I just hope that you'll keep all these things under consideration in your working group.
If I can respond. Yeah, absolutely, Senator Stone. You know, it is very complicated. The chamber did bring up some valid concerns. This is why we felt a working group was important. You know, I think we all recognize that companies are moving in this direction already. We want to make sure that we're fair, that we provide the appropriate balance. And again, my intent is not to review anybody's, trade secrets or, individual ingredients, although you can easily reverse, do the reverse chemistry to know what your competitor's doing. But we don't want to give them that information, let them work for that. And so I think, we're moving into this time. This is why I think the working group's going to be very key. We just want to make sure that, everybody comes to the table. We understand we need to get this fixed. We want to get it now. And so, there's a lot of things to work out, and we look forward to having those discussions starting tomorrow.
Well, I can't support your bill the way it is today, but I think if you continue to work with the working group and we can have a common sense way of communicating to people that some of the ingredients are hazardous, that they need to know about it in an effective way, I could lean toward supporting and would be delighted if you're interested to work with you on this and try to make it more palatable. So
thank you.
Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I too appreciate the working group, because I often find in this committee, Health Committee, when we talk about how we empower the consumer with information, there are any number of bills this legislature has confronted where we get this pushback, which irritates me a little, because there's the assumption that the consumer doesn't have the capacity to really understand either the labeling or doesn't have the capacity to understand the impact the chemical may have on them. So I think your work group structure is going to be important, because it really could inform how we approach this informed consent, consumer versus manufacturer kind of debate that's come up in a variety of places and spaces. One question I have for the representatives from the manufacturers, I think, reflected on page 5 of the analysis, it talks about the voluntary ingredient disclosures. And it talks specifically about the Consumer Product Ingredient Initiative. Can you give me a sense, because it would be wonderful if the manufacturers of these products acknowledge that there could be some allergenic reactions. The analysis doesn't give me a sense of how vast the voluntary effort has spanned. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I represent Consumer Specialty Products Association, and I don't think we have numbers specifically about how vast it is. And maybe the representative from American Cleaning Institute wants to jump in, but I've heard him say that about 90% of products are covered in the voluntary program. So that's products, not manufacturers. So just to be clear on that.
Got it.
In terms of how it works, we give manufacturers a choice, whether we've laid out sort of a framework of how to do it if you want to do it, so there's consistency. I would say the majority of manufacturers are providing those ingredient disclosure online. There's also quite a number of manufacturers who online are indicating when there's a fragrance allergen in the product as well. So that is, steps that the industry has taken. And then on the label, they're putting a link to the website where you can find that information.
So that's the difference. It's not the label on the product, and it's not and if I have a bottle that my employer has refilled, I'll even then have the website link, because I don't see the original commercial size product. But the difference really is label on the bottle versus sending me to a website.
Right. And then,
Got it.
Senator Mitchell, if I can also just give our perspective on the voluntary program. We actually feel it's woefully insufficient. Participating groups have the option to provide the ingredients listed on the product label on the manufacturer's website by phone or by some other electronic means, but we feel there's no actual consistency when it comes to the vast amount of flexibility and open-endedness in the guidelines. In fact, we believe many companies could choose to simply omit certain ingredients, including the chemicals and the fragrances, which is what we're working on. And some of the companies, like we said before, are already disclosing their chemicals in the fragrances, which is what we don't have now. And so, this is why we feel, we need to have a mandatory labeling.
And so we're really moving beyond kind of the known toxins to all ingredients. And so I, as a consumer, if I know I have an allergic reaction to A, B, C, or D, that I'm informed. Last question for me, Mr. Chair. Pardon my ignorance. What is a pictogram? I was hoping that the analysis would give me the
The
answer.
pictograms are, and feel free to jump in, are literally the pictures of like this can cause harm. It can
Okay,
be
so it's
different.
skull and crossbones or
Right,
like a
correct,
needle with
correct.
a hash mark
And we want to
through
be
it?
careful
Okay.
with that because, obviously, we want to make sure that's an appropriate use of the pictogram. We don't want to unnecessarily say this is going to be detrimental to your health in a
Right,
way.
to everybody, because just because
Exactly,
I'm
because then that might
allergic, she may
affect,
not be.
right, that affects, obviously, consumer confidence in certain products. We want to be very methodical on how we use these pictograms and ensuring that, we're not, unintendedly creating other consequences. And so this is why I think we have a working group of experts that are going to, work together. And really, the impetus for this working group is that a lot of these companies now are moving towards full disclosure, even in their fragrances. The demand for consumers to actually want to know what's in their products is moving. And we also want to make sure that products that are in the shelves that paint themselves as a green product simply just don't put a picture of a nice forest or a green bottle and then assume that it's a green product. And
Right.
so there's a lot of considerations here that we're working on. I'm actually very grateful to the opposition and to the proponents that we're really trying to come up with something that's workable for industry, something that's fair for everyone, and that we ultimately create a process by which people can really understand what's in their products, including in the fragrances.
I agree, and thank you for your effort.
Great. Senator Jackson.
Yeah, just a general observation. First, I want to thank the author for bringing this, and I want to thank the industry for finally coming to the table. This is an issue we've been talking about for quite some time, with nothing but resistance from the industry. And I think the world is changing clearly. The most heartening part of the discussion I heard was the notion that these care products companies are trying to get greener and cleaner. And I think that's a very exciting prospect. I think that the public generally, consumers now demanding that. We recognize some of the impacts when some of these cleaning products get into our water systems, our own systems. I think it's very important that we start moving beyond the intractability that says, no, either these are trade secrets or it's too much trouble. So I commend both parties here. And Senator Lara, I think I tried to do a bill like this 15 years ago, and I'm not even sure I got to a committee. So
Timing is everything.
So persistence pays off, and I would like to move the bill and be added as a co-author.
Any additional questions from committee members? I too just want to add my voice and echo our congratulations to the senator for taking on this issue. You need to be commended for it. And I think chemical awareness is not only important for the consumer, but for those workers who use these chemicals on a daily basis. So I think your bill is going in the right direction in achieving that. I also want to commend you for the working group that you'll convene tomorrow, your first working meeting. I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of many going forward and trying to address this. I don't think it's going to be a one and done. But as it relates to the labor code component of your bill, we just need to make sure that there's clear direction as to the labeling requirements in order for the companies and employers to be able to comply with that. Also, like to see clear direction on which entity is responsible for those ingredient disclosures, be it the manufacturer or the employer, and clear labeling directions. And if the employer is going to be asked to get this information from the manufacturer, we need to make sure that the language addresses this as well. So I'd like to continue working with you and wish you much success in achieving our goal here. We have a motion by Senator Jackson. We have a due pass to appropriations. Madam Secretary, please call the. Oh, Senator, would you like to close?
Thank you. I really appreciate the discussion. I just want to take a second. There's very few times when, you come full circle, and just watching Evelyn testify reminded me of my own mother and how she, for many years, was a domestic worker in La Jolla. And I just want to thank her for being brave, for really speaking her truth. And it was a delight to see her testify. I'm just so humbled and honored to have her support this bill. So, muchas gracias, Evelyn. Es un honor conocerte. Thank you.
That's your close. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Bradford?
Aye.
Bradford, I. Stone? Stone, no. Atkins? Atkins, I. Jackson? Jackson, I. Mitchell? Mitchell, I.
You have 4 votes, Senator. Thank you.